Brother, there's a moment in every separation, every breakup, every emotional unraveling where something shifts in a way neither of you expected. A moment so quiet she doesn't notice it at first, so subtle you barely recognize it, yet so powerful it flips the entire dynamic upside down. It's the moment she stops running and starts feeling the pull of something she cannot name. Not because you begged for her, not because you argued, not because you tried to hold on. She feels the pull because something ancient in human psychology awakens when a man stops collapsing and begins reclaiming himself. Most men think a woman comes back because she misses them, but missing is shallow, temporary, sentimental. What brings her back is far deeper, the loss of emotional power she once held over you. The moment that power slips, even slightly, something primal stirs inside her. Curiosity, confusion, fear, longing, a quiet sense that the ground beneath her is no longer steady. And these emotions begin weaving a story she cannot outrun. That's when she thinks of you at night. That's when memories surface uninvited. That's when she wonders if she misjudged you. And that's where the silent desire to return is born. But here is the secret most men never hear. Not from their fathers, not from their friends, not even from themselves. This shift only happens when you stop trying to win her and start winning yourself. When you stop explaining, she feels uncertainty. When you stop reacting, she feels curiosity. When you stop chasing, she feels attraction. When you pull back your attention, she feels the imbalance she once ignored. And when you finally detach, not with bitterness, not with arrogance, but with calm, grounded self-respect, your silence becomes a mirror she can't escape. Because, brother, the moment she senses you're no longer living inside the emotional frame she built for you is the moment she realizes the man she walked away from is not the man standing before her now. Women don't feel the weight of their loss when you break. They feel it when you don't. They don't regret leaving the man who needed them. They regret leaving the man who grows without them. They don't chase the familiar. They chase the man they underestimated. And that is the doorway to everything we're about to uncover. The shift she never saw coming, the internal chase she can't admit. The moment you become the prize, the fear she feels when she senses you slipping away, and the secret, hidden in the psychology of desire, that makes her want to come back first. Everything that happens next begins with this one truth. A man who rises in silence becomes a man she can feel, even from the distance she chose. But brother, this journey isn't passive. It asks something of you. It requires discipline, courage, self-mastery. Before we dive in, take one breath and ask yourself, am I still reacting like the man she left, or becoming the man she never saw coming? If you're ready to step into that version of yourself, like the video, subscribe to Stoic Station, and drop a comment below. 1. If you're still fighting the pull of old habits, or 2. If you're ready to rise in silence and reclaim your power. Start this journey now, because what happens next is the moment that shatters everything she thought she understood. Let's dive in. 1. The shift she never saw coming. Brother, every woman believes she knows exactly how the story will unfold until your silence dismantles the script she trusted. The moment you choose not to collapse where she expected you to break is the moment her entire emotional structure begins to tremble. Most men think a woman comes back because she misses them, but that's rarely the truth. She doesn't return simply out of longing. She returns because something inside her loses its balance when you stop reacting the way she predicted. In her mind, the breakup came with a blueprint, one she relied on to protect her pride. You would chase, you would plead, you would explain yourself, and eventually you would fall apart. That predictable pattern gave her emotional safety. It allowed her to feel strong, feel right, feel untouchable. But everything changes the moment you do the one thing she never accounted for. You vanish into your own strength. At first, she performs confidence. She convinces herself she made the right decision. She tells her friends she's finally free, finally relieved. But what she says and what she quietly anticipates are entirely different things. She expected emotional chaos from you. She expected the familiar weakness. She expected the predictable heartbreak she thought she could control. And when none of that shows up, when your world does not orbit around her absence, something inside her begins to crack. This is where the confusion begins to take root, slow but powerful. Picture it for a moment. She's scrolling through her phone, subconsciously checking for your name, noticing the silence, noticing the absence of your energy, noticing the stability she didn't believe you had. Pause for a second, brother. Imagine the moment she realizes you're not chasing because you're no longer living in the emotional shadow she designed for you. That's when her mind starts replaying old memories, not because she misses the past, but because she can't comprehend the present. Curiosity begins replacing the confidence she once carried. Doubt begins replacing the pride she used as armor. Fear begins replacing the certainty she depended on. Your calm becomes the catalyst that shifts everything. Your discipline becomes the disruption she never expected. Your silence becomes an emotional echo she cannot outrun, because silence, true silence, forces her to confront the possibility that you are not who she thought you were. And suddenly, the power she believed she owned starts slipping through her fingers. She expected you to need her. Instead, she faces the deeper and far more unsettling reality that she may be the one who needs you. And that fear, quiet, creeping, undeniable, is the birthplace of her desire to return. But what happens next is the part she never prepares for. 2. When her mind starts chasing before her words do. Brother. A woman's mouth stays silent long after her mind starts running toward you. She won't speak first, not because she feels nothing, but because her ego can't keep up with the emotions she's trying to outrun. Most men look at her silence and think it's the end. They assume she's moved on, closed the book, forgotten everything. But silence is never the ending. Silence is where her internal chase quietly begins. The moment you stop chasing, the first thing she feels isn't longing, it's disorientation. It's the shock of seeing her predictions crumble, of watching the version of you she built in her mind suddenly stop matching the man standing in front of her now. And women cannot tolerate emotional shifts that have no explanation. They crave narrative, meaning, reasoning. When they can't find it, their minds start pulling them toward the very source of the confusion, you. That's when the questions begin, the questions she never expected to ask herself. Why isn't he trying anymore? Why does he look so calm? Has he already moved on? These questions create psychological momentum that she cannot switch off. Her mind starts comparing two men, the man she left, the one she assumed would stay predictable, and the man she sees from afar now, quiet, grounded, selective, disciplined. And comparison is cruel to her pride. Because for the first time, she realizes you were never dependent on her presence. You simply chose her while you were still learning yourself. And now, you're choosing yourself in a way she never believed you could. Take a breath, brother. Imagine her scrolling through your profile, noticing the glow in your life, noticing the discipline in your habits, noticing the peace that has replaced the chaos she once created. Imagine the sting she feels in her chest, the one she pretends isn't there, as she watches you move through your world without clinging to hers. The more she watches, the more her mind begins filling in the blanks she fears the most. What if he's happier without me? What if I misjudged him? What if someone else sees his value now? What if I lose him forever? These internal questions create emotional urgency, the kind she can't talk about with her friends, the kind she tries to silence but can't escape. It's the beginning of a chase she never admits out loud. Your growth becomes the trigger that wakes her up. Your improved discipline becomes the magnet that pulls her attention. Your detachment becomes the spark that lights something she thought she had extinguished long ago. She begins to feel drawn back, not because you're doing anything to win her, but because everything about your life now reflects a man who no longer needs her validation to stand tall. That shift forces her to see you differently. It forces her to reconcile with the truth she avoided. She lost emotional ground the moment you grew beyond the version of yourself she believed would always stay available. And brother, before she ever types a single word, before she ever tests the silence, before she ever creates an excuse to appear again, her mind is already reaching back toward you. The chase always begins internally, long before it becomes visible. 3. When you become the prize. Brother, there comes a moment so subtle you almost miss it. The moment she realizes you're no longer the man waiting at the door, but the man she no longer has access to. It doesn't happen with a grand gesture, a cold message, or a confrontation. It happens quietly, in the spaces where your old patterns used to live. Men lose attraction when they pretend to be the prize before they've earned it, but you did the opposite. You didn't posture, you didn't perform confidence, you disappeared into the work. You rebuilt yourself instead of arguing. And that simple but powerful shift rewired the entire dynamic between you and her. Because nothing changes a woman's perception more than a man who outgrows the version of himself she believed would always stay small. At first, she felt safe. Too safe. She believed she knew exactly where she stood with you. She believed your emotions were predictable, your reactions controllable, your heart accessible. Certainty, brother, is the silent assassin of feminine desire. Curiosity cannot breathe in predictability, and she thought she had you fully mapped out. But everything changes the moment you step back with intention. The moment your silence isn't a performance but a product of your rising standards. The moment your life begins expanding into places she never followed you to. That is when she feels the ground beneath her pride begin to shift. She suddenly doesn't know where she stands with you. She doesn't know what you feel. She doesn't know if she still matters in the world she once dominated. That uncertainty is the spark women are biologically wired to respond to. It awakens curiosity, jealousy, imagination, desire, the very emotions she believed she had complete control over. She begins noticing your discipline, the boundaries you once lacked but now enforce with calm conviction, the new energy in your presence that doesn't ask for her approval. Picture her seeing you laugh without hesitation, train with focus, work with purpose, move through your life without her name anchoring your identity, and feel something tighten in her chest. Take a moment and imagine that, brother. Imagine her realizing that the emotional ecosystem she once controlled has evolved without her input. That is when she starts wondering who you truly are now, and that curiosity grows into something she hadn't prepared for. Slowly, she begins realizing she overlooked a strength she never took the time to understand. She begins seeing you as the prize she walked away from too easily, not because you said anything, but because she feels it through the man you've become. Your value doesn't increase because you tell her it has. It increases because your life reflects it without validation, without performance, without needing her eyes on you. A man who doesn't return to the past becomes the man the past returns to, because growth creates gravity. The world is drawn to those who rise, even those who thought they could live without you. And now she no longer feels entitled to you. That loss of entitlement becomes the birthplace of her desire, the place where longing takes root, the place where she begins to recognize the cost of taking you for granted. The moment she realizes you're no longer waiting is the moment she starts waiting for a signal she may never receive. 4. The moment she realizes you're slipping away. Brother, the moment that truly breaks her isn't when you walk out the door, it's when she feels for the very first time that you're no longer emotionally tied to her. That invisible shift, the one she can't articulate but instantly senses, is what shakes her to her core. Most men think blocking her, ignoring her, or acting cold creates attraction. It doesn't. Forced distance is loud and reactive, but a man whose silence feels real, grounded, and rooted in genuine self-respect, that's the kind of silence that reaches her in places your words never could. What shakes her isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It's the sudden recognition that your world is no longer orbiting around hers. It always begins with small details she never expected to notice. You don't view her story. You don't react to her posts. You don't give her ego the comfort it once lived on. At first, it bothers her in a subtle way, like an itch she can't quite place. Then it unsettles her, planting a quiet unease she can't shake off. And eventually, it scares her, because those small changes signal a deeper truth. Your attention is no longer automatic. Your presence is no longer guaranteed. Your heart is no longer sitting where she left it. Her intuition, sharper than her pride wants to admit, begins warning her. He's not orbiting me anymore. He's not waiting for me. He's okay without me. Women sense energetic detachment long before they see the practical signs. And nothing terrifies her ego more than the feeling that you're outgrowing the version of yourself she once believed she could walk away from without consequence. What unsettles her is not your silence, but what your silence reveals, that you may actually be happier, stronger, and more grounded now that the emotional thread between you is no longer wrapped around her hand. This is where regret begins to brew. This is where curiosity deepens. This is where she starts losing emotional ground she didn't think she could lose. Pause for a moment, brother. Imagine her refreshing your profile late at night, looking for a crack in your composure, hoping for some sign that you still feel something, and finding only growth instead. That quiet sting becomes the echo she lives with. She starts posting subtle signals, breadcrumbs designed to test the distance, small baits to see if you'll flinch, react, or return to old patterns. She does these things not because she's confident, but because she now feels what she never felt before. You're slipping away. Your emotional independence becomes the trigger she cannot hide from. When you no longer need her to feel valuable, she is finally forced to confront the cost of losing you. The breakup didn't break you, it built you. It shaped you into a man who carries himself differently, thinks differently, moves differently. And that realization shakes her more deeply than anything you could have said, because she now sees the truth she never prepared herself to face. 5. The secret that makes her want to come back first. Brother. The real reason she comes back isn't rooted in nostalgia, regret, or loneliness. Those emotions may surface later, but they are not what pulls her toward you. What draws her back is the shock, the jarring realization that she can no longer predict, control, or replace the man you've become. She never expected your evolution to happen without her influence. She never imagined you would rise in her absence. She never believed your value could increase once she walked away. Yet that's exactly what happened, and it's this unexpected growth that turns her confidence into fear and her distance into longing. Women don't chase the man they left. They chase the man they misjudged, the man whose transformation reveals what they failed to appreciate when they still had access to him. And brother, that shift is brutal to her pride, because while she was assuming you would stay the same, you were quietly becoming someone new. As your strength grows, so does her internal pressure. Two truths hit her at once with a force she didn't prepare for. You are no longer the man she walked away from, and you've become the man other women would want. Calm, purposeful, disciplined, self-respecting. This combination devastates her ego and ignites her desire in a way she cannot hide, even from herself. She begins imagining another woman receiving the energy she once took for granted. She imagines someone else benefiting from your discipline, your stability, your focus, your growth. Emotional scarcity starts tightening around her like a vice, because now, for the first time, she feels what you once felt, the possibility of being replaced. Close your eyes for a moment, brother. Imagine her realizing the upgraded version of you is no longer hers by default. Imagine her confronting the truth that the man she dismissed is now a man she may never get close to again. That fear outweighs her ego, and the fear of losing you forever becomes stronger than the fear of reaching out first. You didn't win her back through strategy or manipulation. You didn't play games or chase validation. You won through transformation, by outgrowing the identity she used to take for granted, by refusing to return to the emotional version of yourself she thought would always be available. Your silence became strength. Your distance became dignity. Your evolution became undeniable. A man who elevates himself becomes impossible to forget. Even for the woman who believed she'd never look back, she doesn't come back to reclaim the past. She comes back because the future version of you, the man standing in his power, grounded in his purpose, is someone she never believed she'd need until her life without you exposed what she lost. And once she feels the possibility of losing you forever, once she senses another woman may experience the man she overlooked, she will move first, not out of strategy, but out of fear, desire, and awakening. Brother, after everything we uncovered tonight, there is one truth you cannot look away from. A man who evolves in silence becomes a man she can feel, even from the distance she chose. Not because you begged, not because you performed strength, but because you rose in ways she never believed you could. She didn't break when you walked away. She broke the moment she realized she no longer had access to the man she once underestimated. Her confusion, her comparisons, her internal chase, her fear of losing you, her desire to return. Every shift we examined was triggered by one thing: your transformation, not your tactics. Take a breath, brother, and ask yourself quietly, am I becoming the man she hopes will take her back, or the man who no longer needs her return to feel whole? Because when you choose yourself with discipline, dignity, and emotional sovereignty, you don't just rewrite her perception of you. You rewrite your entire life. You stop being the man she felt comfortable walking away from and become the man she never expected to crave again. But understand this, the story doesn't end when she comes back. That's where your real test begins. She will return with uncertainty, humility, curiosity, and fear. Your strength in that moment won't come from what you say. It will come from who you've become. So the real question isn't, will she reach out? Most women do. The real question is, will you remain the man your evolution created when she finally does? If you're ready for that next phase. The psychological shift inside you when she tries to reconnect, and how a stoic man responds without losing his frame. Don't miss the next lesson. That, brother, is where your transformation becomes unshakable. If this message resonated with you, like the video, subscribe to Stoic Station, and drop one line in the comments. I rise in silence, so I know you're not just watching, you're becoming. And remember, your silence was never the end. It was the beginning of the man she never saw coming.